Hey everyone, you're listening to the Tea with Tanya podcast, and I'm your host, Tanya Ambrose. I'm a public health professional by day and your average tea-loving millennial and content creator by night. My goal for this podcast is to share public health stories, self-love and wellness tips, to educate and empower, and to promote positive living. This podcast is here to serve you. Join me in the tea tasting room to see what I have brewing for you. Hey everybody, as you know, March is Women's History Month, so every Tuesday for the month of March, I'm going to be uploading a new episode featuring amazing women that I admire and who are doing wonderful things in today's society. On today's episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down and talking to what I like to call her, my social media bestie, Tisha, over in the UK. And we were just talking about our experiences with therapy so far. I promise you it's a good episode. Make sure you stay to the end.
Hi, I'm so excited.
I was trying to get my hair together. It hasn't been washed in
You look amazing. It's fine. You're glowing. I can see the sun just radiating on you.
Yeah, we're finally.
Yes, finally.
So I recently started therapy a few months ago, and my guest today is one of the reasons why, or has been very instrumental in me starting therapy. I can't remember where or when we met. I'm thinking so many different things, but I'll let her tell us anyway what her memory is of us meeting. Then I'll say mine. But anyway, everybody, welcome my guest, Tisha.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Oh, I don't even know what to say. Where did we meet? It's weird because we haven't actually met yet. We're like internet friends.
Guys, in person. She's been the best friend, or my social media best friend rather, for the last. It's been a while. I feel like it's been so long.
It's been a couple years because when we first met, it was through the blog. I was still blogging, which I haven't blogged for like nearly 3 years now.
Yes, it could have been at least 3-4 years, and we just, I don't know, it I guess developed from outside of blogging to just like a friendship. And like I said, we have never met in person yet. 2020 would have been the year because I was planning to travel to England. Guys, by the way, she's in England, so she's 5 hours ahead of me. So that's just like dedication, her taking time out of her busy day to accommodate me over here in the US.
It was not busy.
I guess somebody who loves me, I don't know what that is. But so as you guys know, I started my Instagram Live, Tea with Tanya IG Live series, which I wanted to have you on, Tisha. But, obviously the time that I was going live, obviously it would have been like midnight, 1 a.m. your time. So it wasn't ideal. So I just knew when I started this podcast that you were going to be at least one of my first guests that I recorded with. And you are the first.
I'm so honored
that I'm recording with. But let the people know, tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do, or, all that stuff.
Who am I? That's a big question. I'm a mental health first aider. That's the thing that I'm most aligned with at the moment. So I was sponsored by my company to go into training so that I can be like a first point of contact for people that are dealing with mental health issues, predominantly in the workplace, but it applies to everyone. I also work in technology/finance. I'm a business analyst. And I'm just a young girl that's living her life. I recently moved into my own place. So I'm starting this whole adulting journey and just trying to figure things out.
Well, let me tell you this now. Adulting is just it's not that great as what they make it seem like. Can I go back to being a child?
Yes.
I have no responsibilities, nothing.
No bills.
Yeah, so I'm just going to get right into it. Tisha, when did you realize how important mental health was for you or just in general? Because I feel like in society, we talk about, be healthy, but for some reason, we always leave out the mental health aspect of our health. And I feel like, if we're going to talk about we need to be healthy or our well-being, that also should be a factor. So when did you realize that mental health was important?
Unfortunately, I didn't realize until my mental health took a turn for the worst. So I'll just break down my academics because that's part of how things went wrong. I studied mechanical engineering, and in the UK, a degree is 3 years long. But I was doing a master's, which made it 4 years long. And I did a placement year, so a year where you go out to work. So that made it 5 years long.
Oh,
so I did my placement year. I went out to work. And when it was time to go back to university, I was very nervous, very anxious about it. I really didn't enjoy my university experience the first 2 years. I was enjoying working and making money and living my best life. I didn't want to go back. So when I returned to campus and everything really set in, I started feeling really anxious about everything. I was struggling to sleep. I was struggling to stay asleep. I was struggling to socialize with people. I just wanted to be indoors all the time. And there was a society at my university, I think it was Ethnic Minority Society, and they put on a talk about mental health. And I just thought, let me just go and see what this is about, because I know something is wrong, but I don't really know what the issue is. And I couldn't pinpoint where exactly or when exactly things had gone wrong. So I went to this talk and there was a lady there. Her name is Damola. And she was just talking about her experiences. And the honest truth is I couldn't relate. I hadn't been through what she had been through, but I felt the way she was feeling. And that was when I realized, okay, something is wrong with me mentally. I'm not crazy. I'm not going mad, but I need some help. So that was 2017, around like October, November time. That's when I became aware. Before that, I just didn't know anything about mental health.
Right. And I think it's the same for me. And as far as I can remember, it was in the end of 2015 when I failed out of nursing school. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a failure. I'm like, I'm not dumb. Why did I fail? Why are they so harsh on me and say, oh, if you fail one class, you can't continue the program for another 2 years. And I'm like, I'm getting older. I don't have 2 years, to wait to get back into a nursing program. So I started thinking, okay, what am I going to do? And you know what? As usual, try to push through and find it the other step. But then I was just depressed. But at the time, when I'm thinking about it now, I didn't know that I was depressed. I just figured, what, I'm just sad. I don't want to do anything. Was this fine or not being motivated to do anything? I didn't feel like it was an issue. Then I, like I said, picked myself up, moved to another state, kept getting rejected again, kept being sad. And, of course, I went to my best friend or my siblings, but I feel like at some point they didn't understand or they couldn't help me, put it that way. Because, they tried. I'll give them that. They tried. But I feel like they couldn't help me in whatever way that I needed help. But again, back then I wasn't thinking about mental health. I'm from the Caribbean. We think about, you better go talk to the pastor, go pray, seeing a therapist. I guess for me, in my background, it would be, you're crazy, as in you're the extreme, I guess, to the word of crazy. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, whatever, fine. Left it alone. And then, of course, then I guess on social media or in today's society, everyone's talking about mental health or self-care this, self-care that. But I still was not. I thought, I'm perfect. I don't need therapy. I can go talk to a pastor. But then there was like a distrust. I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to say it because it's my podcast. And, it's going to be real. I developed like a distrust with a particular, I'll say, man of faith or man of the cloth. I'm like, you know what? If these are the people who should be, I guess, living a faithful life or following God's way or word, put it that way. And, this is what they're doing. How can I trust you? So I just totally wrote off speaking to anyone in general. Then
I can relate to that.
Yeah, here then you came fast forward a few years. I guess it was probably last year, 2019, when I realized that you were an advocate for mental health, and then you told me you got your mental health first aid. I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest, first and foremost. So before I continue, just tell me exactly what you do as a mental health first aid and what made you, even though I know you had your struggles, what made you decide you wanted to be an advocate to help people like me?
Yeah. So I work in finance. I work for an investment bank, and it's known as a tough industry where they don't care about their colleagues. So when they advertised that they were doing this training, I was like, oh, so they're actually interested in our mental health and our well-being. Let me go and find out like how serious this is. So I actually joined it out of curiosity. I'm not a therapist by any means. It was a 2-day training course, but it was an intense training course. There was a lot of reading. There was a lot of group activities and exercises for us to try and understand different mental health illnesses and how to deal with them, and how like the different treatments that relate to each one. So we had this massive handbook, and we did lots of group exercises, like I said, and we watched a lot of videos and tutorials and went through lots of leaflets that we would share with our colleagues. And my role now allows me to pinpoint some of the factors and signs that people might have. So if I see someone in the office that's usually really loud and bubbly and they become quite, what's the word? Just they keep to themselves. Maybe they don't go out for lunch. It's difficult now because we're working from home, but they're not as social. They don't speak up in meetings. You just notice that people's behavior changes. Then you can spot the signs, and you can pull someone to the side and say, okay, are you okay? Are you dealing with anything? And if they want to, they talk to you. They don't have to. You don't report anyone. We don't keep an audit or any sort of record of who we've spoken to and what they've said. Unless, of course, it's something really serious, like somebody might be suicidal, trying to harm themselves or harm others, then obviously we have to escalate things to HR. But it's just a point of contact to give people direction, so that might be the medical insurance, that might be therapy, that might be the national health service, that might be a counselor, it might be group therapy, just informing them of the different channels that are available to them to help them with their mental health. So we don't sit down and do counseling with people because we're not trained to do that, but we might help them and support them if that's what they need and lead them in the right direction.
All right, helping them to find the different resources.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what was your first day of therapy like? Because for me, I guess the process of finding an actual therapist that you actually like, that's another thing too. So what was that process like, trying to find a therapist? And then what was your first session? Without giving us all the details, just tell us, how you felt going into your first session.
That's a good question, because I actually did CBT about 5 different times before I went into face-to-face counseling therapy.
CBT is, tell them.
Cognitive behavioral therapy is designed to change the way you think, particularly to deal with like stress, anxiety, and depression. But it doesn't go into detail about like your trauma and your past and your experiences. It's more so different coping mechanisms, finding things that you're interested in. And it didn't work out for me. So when I went to my first proper therapy session, I was over it. I sat down and I was just like, I'm only here because my mum said I need to sort my life out because she's worried about me. I don't really think this is going to go anywhere. I don't think you can do anything, but I'm here. So let's just see what happens. And I remember she just looks at me and she smiled, and she probably heard it 1,000 times. And now my therapist is like my best friend. But I was very nervous because I blogged at the time. I didn't have an issue with telling anyone my business. That was something I did for fun. My issue was just telling someone my business without them being able to give me any help, because I've spoken to friends before, I've spoken to family before, and none of them could help me in any way, shape or form. So it's like, I'm tired of telling the same story and not getting anywhere with it. So I definitely went in there very frustrated. I was just over it. I had no desire to be in that room.
Right. I mean, for me, like I said, I credit you and my best friend, for encouraging me, but still at the same time, leading by example. Because you guys didn't, especially you didn't force me. You'll be like, oh, hey sis, how are you doing? And guys, when I say sis, I mean it like sis. She's like a sister from another mother, like legit. But, you'll check in and I'll be like, I'm not having a good day. And you'll ask why, not to sound, I guess, nosy for lack of a better word, but you genuinely were concerned. And no point in time did I feel like, I can't be vulnerable or open. I was just always, sometimes I'm probably sharing too much with her, but I'm like, what she asks, because I feel like if I ask somebody a question, I'm generally asking.
Yeah, exactly.
That's me. And I just kept making certain decisions over and over and over and over to the detriment of my own self, putting myself in jeopardy, whether it be physically, mentally, whatever it is, or whatever it was. I'm like, what? She said that she's a mental health advocate. She spoke about her experience to me in therapy, and then my best friend, she was going, and she would have mentioned certain things in regards to her sessions, without giving away too much. I'm like, what? It couldn't be that bad. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll just talk to my mirror, because guys, the bathroom is my favorite room in the house. Whenever I get my dream home, that bathroom's gonna have to be on point, because I just get a lot done in the bathroom. It's like my sacred safe space. I don't know why. I don't know what's the meaning behind of that. So I'm like, it's okay. I'll just talk to my bathroom mirror. I'll just write in my post-its, give myself little reminders. But I'm like, no, there has to be a reason as to why I keep making certain decisions. I wasn't sure if it was things from my past or what it was. I'm like, let me go. And I went to therapy for Black girls. Shout out to them as well. And I started searching, and I was a bit adamant of making sure that I had a Black therapist. I don't like to put race into everything. I'm like, who's going to understand my crazy self? Because for me, I feel like, I can't, at the time, I don't think I would have found someone who had a Caribbean background, because I'm that kind of girl. I got to date a Caribbean guy, because I just feel like I don't have time to explain my culture to some people sometimes. I mean, I will do that, but I just I just need somebody who can relate to me. So I wasn't going to find that here. And then went on the website, kept scrolling, and then this one therapist she kept coming back for some reason to the screen. I don't know why. I'm like, let me go with her and I'll try, send the email, did all the sign up stuff. And she reached out to me within 24 hours. And like you said, I feel like she's my best friend now. I was nervous. I'm like, I'm going to have to tell somebody all my business. I don't know you, you know what I mean? But I think it was I became comfortable knowing that she doesn't know me, doesn't know anything about me, where I'm from, who I am. So I'm like, you know what? How hard could it be? And session 1, of course, I cried because I'm a cry, guys. I am a cry, and we were just talking, and we just clicked from day one. So, I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones where, I found someone who I didn't have to date a therapist then to figure out who was the right one. And to this day, I'm still at weekly sessions. I haven't graduated to every other weekend or once a month. I'll get there because
you will.
I'm still a work in progress because there's still a lot to unpack within the last few months that I've been going. Honestly, I have seen a change. I'm not going to lie to you, Tisha. There was 2 weeks where we didn't have any session because I forgot what happened. I think it was just my schedule, and I felt like I relapsed in that 2 weeks. Everything that I learned in therapy, I felt like I just relapsed within those 2. I was just doing things that I know or knew for a fact I shouldn't be doing because I was moving past them. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to have to go to weekly sessions until I can get my life together as far as, where I feel like I'm comfortable. Because I have a lot on my mind, trying to get into grad school, all these different things.
You're doing lots of things.
Let me tell you, I need me like a good night's sleep sometimes, so whenever I have, I feel like my therapy sessions are now part of my self-care. So when I talk about, self-care, there's self-care. It's just not about getting my nails or hair done, which I don't really get my hair done because, it's a pandemic now, but it's just not always about getting my nails, hair, makeup, doing all that. I mean, that's part of my self-care too, but I feel like therapy for me is definitely something that I look forward to every week.
That's good because I used to hate going.
Really?
Yeah, because I would always feel, well, just a bit of background. So my parents are Nigerian and they were completely against me going to therapy. So I had to do it in secret at first. So I used to go after work, and I work in London and I live in Essex. So it was like nearly 2 hours going home after every therapy session, sitting on the train. And you're just thinking about all of the horrible things that you've discussed and all of the trauma that you've been through and all of the trauma that you didn't realize was trauma. And I just had so much time to sit in silence and think about these things. And sometimes I would get home, I'd be in such a foul mood. I wouldn't eat dinner. I would just go to my room, cry, and go to sleep. So I used to hate going because it's like, I know that this whole weekend I'm going to be upset.
Again, I got lucky because of the pandemic. We've just been doing our telehealth or tele sessions. I haven't been in person yet, but I'm pretty sure there would have been days because I hate driving, even though I think her office is 20 minutes from where I live. But, I just don't like the drive period and it's cold. It's interesting that you said that your parents, at first, they didn't believe in you going to therapy. So they knew, or they now know, obviously, because you said your mom earlier. You said your mom said to get you life. So how was that? Because I know, like I said, I feel like when it comes to Caribbean and African parents, we know how they can get. So how was it, I guess, you telling them you need to go to therapy? What was that like? Because for me, I haven't really told my parents that I'm in therapy. And I'm I'm going to therapy, but I don't think they really hear what I'm saying. So they'll probably find out now on this podcast. But because I feel like, it's not your business. Because I just don't want, why are you going to therapy? Or so I haven't said anything to them yet officially.
So telling my parents was interesting because they knew something was wrong with me, but they didn't know what it was.
Right.
And just like with most African and Caribbean parents, they thought it was something I could pray away. So I started doing CBT while I was still at university, and I just didn't tell them. And then one day we had a discussion, and I think I'd written a blog post about anxiety, and they read the blog post, obviously, and they were like, so is something wrong with you? I was like, yeah, actually, I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and I've been going to therapy for a couple of months. At that time, I think it actually just been a couple of weeks. There was a lot of shock. There was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of anger. They didn't understand why I'd done it.
Right.
They didn't understand if it was safe for me. They were thinking about me in future jobs. Would that be something that would hold me back? They didn't like the fact that I was talking about my mental health on the internet. That was an issue. And it's actually one of the reasons why I stopped my blog and decided to pursue a different form of expression. But they didn't get it. And it's funny because we had this conversation, and the very next day, because they could see how upset I was and how distraught I was, they're like, okay, we get it. We'll support you. They even wanted to pay for it. And I was angry. I was like, I don't want your money. I'm going to do it by myself. You guys don't understand what I'm going through.
Right.
And my mental health continued to decline. And eventually my mum was like, I need you to go and try something else. The therapy you were doing before the CBT, it's not working. maybe you should try some medication, maybe you should speak to someone.
Right.
And at the time, I was really against medication because my body just doesn't respond well to medication in general. So I was like, fine, I'll try therapy. But that didn't happen, unfortunately, until I had graduated, because that was the only way I was going to be able to afford it. And that's one of the things that I love about being a mental health first aider. We're exposed to a lot of resources that young people especially can use that are free or discounted, which I didn't know about when I was younger.
Right. Yeah, that's something I think I'll have to look into over here in the US, because, health insurance here is just, it's different than over in the UK, but it's just, not every insurance would cover mental health, because mine doesn't. I have to pay out of my pocket every week, but it's an investment that I made for myself. I say, if I can invest in any other thing and do the things that I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing financially, why can't I invest in my mental health? I had someone ask me, someone really, really close to me, she asked me, why did you start therapy? I didn't know about it. She just wanted to know, why I started therapy. And I said, to be honest, I can't give you a straight answer, to be honest, at this point in time, but I knew I needed help because I kept making certain decisions over and over and over. And it was just having a toll on me. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I was losing weight that I can't afford to lose because I'm already a slim person.
I know the feeling.
I was losing weight, not eating, had no desire to do anything. And one thing I can say that I learned in therapy is the power of no. Saying the word
powerful.
no without explaining my no. Some days I find myself explaining why I'm saying no, but I'm getting better at saying no. So if something is not, I guess, I don't want to use the word healthy, but if it's not fulfilling me, I'm just going to say no. I'm not going to feel bad. But I do want to ask, how do you, if you can answer this, not sure if you still have anxiety, but how do you deal with that? Because for me right now, I think my therapist just told me last week that she thinks that I have anxiety because I'm waiting to hear from a particular school that I want to get in. And, it's just I don't want to say that much. I'll tell you off here. But, it's just the anxieties. I haven't been sleeping. Like, it's been 2 weeks, well, prior to this podcast, it's been 2 weeks since I didn't really sleep at all. Like, I was just up throughout the night, watching TV, have no desire to do anything, kept thinking about this one school, what life is going to be like if I don't get in. And so I'm now understanding or realizing that I do have anxiety. So if you do, like, what do you do? What are some coping mechanisms you can, I guess, tell our audience, but at the same time, what do you do to cope when you have anxiety or with anxiety?
Yeah, I do quite a few different things. I wouldn't say that I have one thing in particular that I do that will get rid of the anxiety. For me, I've learned, especially one thing I learned in therapy, is that I can't get rid of things, but I can manage them. So I might go for a walk. I try to go for a walk with someone else so that I can talk about something else and take my mind off whatever is making me anxious. If it's around bedtime, I have an oil diffuser and I put essential oils in there. And I have essential oils that I bought that are specifically made for anxiety. And that sometimes helps to relax my senses and just take away that anxious feeling. I also journal a lot. Shameless plug.
Yeah. We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it. Just writing down what I'm anxious about. Because for me, I really struggle to pray, but I can write things down. So I write it down and literally like put it in an envelope and say, okay, God, this is for you. Like, this isn't my issue anymore. What else do I do to deal with anxiety? I try to sit through it. My therapist always tells me that there's no such thing as a good or bad. Emotions are emotions. And you have to sit with them. So instead of running away from my anxiety, sometimes I will sit down and just cry and just let all of the sadness out and let all of the stress out. And it's a scary feeling. I remember the first time I did that. Like, I didn't pick up my phone and go on Instagram. I didn't go for a walk. I didn't turn on my essential oils. I didn't try to distract myself. I just sat in the anxiety or in the depression or in the distress, wherever it is. And you just have to realize that it's not going to kill you. It's not going to finish you off. Just like your happiness, it will come and it will pass. So you just have to learn to sit in it and embrace it. That doesn't mean that you should be anxious or depressed or stressed for the rest of your life. It means that when those phases happen, that you're able to just allow them to pass. I don't know how best to articulate that.
No, I mean, and it's interesting that you say sometimes, and I think I forgot what you said, but you said that you write or it's better for you to journal than versus praying. Like, you would pray, but, it's easier for you to write versus, praying. And I think for me, I'm the opposite. Because, I mean, I love journaling, but now that you said that you write out what you're anxious about, that's something that I am going to take away from you, because I never thought about it that way. I was just writing my feelings or just, write whatever I felt like I needed to write. or writing out what I'm anxious about. That is an awesome thing to do. But yeah, for me, I think I just pray because I'm a prayer. Like my sisters, they'll tell you, oh, Pastor Tanya, she's here. Because some said that if we're praying over a meal, I'm just there praying long. And they're like, oh my goodness, don't let Pastor Tanya pray.
You're one of those.
I'm one of those. And I'm so random, like I'll be in the middle of the day and I'm like, oh guys, let's go and pray. Not to be like overly religious or anything, but I just feel like something it's just my spirit. It's just, it's time for prayer. And I do it because for me, I'm feeling overwhelmed. So instead of praying by myself, if I'm with like my sisters or my boyfriend or whoever, I'll just be like, oh hey, let's go pray. And they'll do it, but they'll be like, make it sure. I can tell when they say, it's time to say amen. But so for me, I've been telling myself, like I said, I've been dealing with this anxious feeling the last couple of weeks. I've been telling myself, you know what? I am, when it comes to my faith, I am deep in my faith. And if I'm going to be praying, asking God, hey, let me get into this school, or this is what I want, and me not believing, like, how am I going to expect results and for it to be the right results as well? So I'm just like, if it's for me, it's for me. But let me tell you, sometimes I'm like, let me let it go. So you put it in that envelope. I just like, I'm praying, I'm leaving here. Do what you may.
Yeah.
But of course, sometimes it is still hard.
It's hard.
What you want, because we are humans. We want the best for ourselves. So it's hard. But I do want you to tell our audience, for someone who's thinking about therapy, or for those who think, oh, I don't need therapy. I can go to church, or I can just talk to my friends. So let's be real. Yeah, we have friends, but they have their issues too that they're probably not telling us. Or we all have stuff going on, whether it's something serious as far as mental health. We do have a lot. We're working, trying to build a life for ourselves. It's not, I feel like what I'm realizing now, you have to pick and choose what baggage you open to, someone else.
Yes.
Because there have been instances where people, they just unload. And I feel like these days going forward, I want someone to ask me, hey, do you have the mental capacity to take on XYZ right now?
Do you know, you're very good at doing that. You ask me that all the time, and I love it.
Because I want people to do that. Because sometimes they'll just come and just dump, and I'm just like, okay, I needed a minute to get my mind right to deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll still talk to them, and I'll still give my 2 cents. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes I just wish that we could normalize asking someone, hey, are you in the right mind frame today to talk to me, or can I chat back in tomorrow? Or, just, I guess, put those feelers out there, because again, we are going through, especially with this pandemic, we are all going through it. For someone who's considering therapy, tell me, why would you recommend therapy to them?
I always say that everybody needs therapy for multiple reasons. Number one, I think it's the best way to learn about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, why you are the person that you are, like the trauma and your past experiences that have shaped you, that cause you to fear certain things, to enjoy certain things. I don't really understand how anyone can lead a life and set goals and have passions and desires without knowing who they are. And therapy has helped me to learn that. So that's the first reason. The second reason I'd say people should go to therapy is because you learn a lot about your relationship with yourself, and that has a big impact on the relationship you have with other people. The same way you've said that you might not have the mental capacity to have that conversation, someone that doesn't understand their own mental capacity is not going to ask you if you have that capacity before they offload on you. So that's another reason. 3, because I think we all deserve to have a judgment-free zone where we can talk about anything and everything with someone that is literally trained to listen. They have studied for 7, 10, 50 years the art of listening. They know how to listen to you, how to respond to you, when to interrupt you, what to recommend when you're done talking. So I think that's the number one reason why anyone should go to therapy, because we all need someone that listens to us. And people from a religious background will say, okay, well, God listens to you, but God doesn't always respond straight away. And sometimes you need that human interaction. You need someone to add the ums and the ahs as you're speaking, which you won't necessarily get through prayer. So those are the top 3 reasons I think someone should go to therapy. But like I said before, the main reason is just to learn about who you are. I'm a champion for self-discovery, self-development, everything. And I think it's really important to just know what makes you you. And therapy is something that definitely helps with that.
Well, that's a really, really good advice. I feel like, self-discovery is a really, really big thing. And if many of us, if we're able to find out more about ourselves, the world honestly would be a better place. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to ask you, because, guys, she used to run this blog called
Smile.
Behind the smile.
Behind the smile. Like, smile. But you recently launched, well, first you did your Instagram page, the Schmile Journal. That's what it's called. Yep. And then you recently launched the journal. I was like, oh my God, I needed a new journal. And for some reason, I just kept holding off from buying a new one, to be honest. I was just scribbling in the back of the pages on this book that I had. And so tell us the inspiration. I mean, guys, of course, make sure you guys order it. I'll put the link in the bio for you guys. And I can't wait for mine to get here. But what was the inspiration?
I really hope it gets to you soon.
Like, tell us some more about, because I know you said you worked with mental health professionals, these different things. Mm-hmm. So what made you, which I think we can kind of understand what made you, but what was the inspiration behind you doing that journal? And tell us more about what it has, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm really vocal about mental health on my Instagram page, my personal Instagram page. And people started asking me about journaling a lot because that I would always say that was my number one coping mechanism. And I realized that people didn't know how to journal. And then I bought Michelle Obama's journal, the Becoming Journal. And that was the first time I had used a guided journal. And I loved it. But there were so many things that I thought were missing. So I was like, I'm going to make one and I'm going to make it better without sounding arrogant. That's essentially what it was. So there are guided questions. So it's prompted is the word. It's a guided journal, but it has prompted questions to help you reflect and discover, like I said, who you are and why you are and what you're meant to do with your life. But I was also in the process of coaching. So I got a life coach and I was setting goals with him. And he actually helped me to plan my journal and decide what I wanted in there. And I got such an amazing experience from this life coach that I then reached out to other life coaches and I said, okay, like what are some techniques that people can use to develop their self-development? Tisha, think of better words. To improve their self-development, let's say that. And so visualization questions came up and setting SMART goals. I said, okay, I'm definitely going to include those in the journal. So that's asking you to visualize your future. What are 5 things that you would like to be different? Why would they be different? How would they be different? Things like that. And then I realized that all of these ideas could be put into one journal. So then I decided to think about who the journal would be for. And one thing that led me to journaling was struggling to find a balance between spirituality and mental health. Like you mentioned, coming from an African or Caribbean background, people tell you to pray, they tell you to go to church. They forget that therapy can be part of God's blessing and part of God's healing for you. So I wanted to create something that brought those two worlds together. So it allowed people to be vocal in the spiritual senses. So I have prayer boxes in there, I have scriptures in there, but also I have myths and facts about mental health so that you can bring the two worlds together and fuse them together to improve your life, really. And then self-care, everybody talks about self-care all the time. So I included some practical tips for self-care, things that you can do on a daily basis to just help you get through the struggles of life, especially adult life. And then CBT. I think most people, when they start therapy, they do CBT, which we mentioned earlier, is cognitive behavioral therapy. So I got some CBT worksheets from a few different therapists and I included those in the journal so that people can work through them and just get a feel of what therapy is like, almost like an introduction. What else is in there? And then I think the most important part is that there are pages that are completely blank. So I want the journal to be personal to everyone. Right. So aside from the questions where there are prompts, I want you to be able to write about whatever it is you're feeling, whatever it is you're thinking. If you want to draw, you can draw. There are completely blank pages. You can color if you'd like to color. And I think that's the most useful part of the journal, really, just being able to express yourself as an individual, what makes you you. Yeah.
I do love that. And like I said, I can't wait for mine to get here.
I honestly can't wait for you to get it.
It'll take some time since it's coming from the UK, but let the people know where they can find. I mean, we'll put the link again, but just say, where they can go to find the journal. And of course, on Instagram, these different things.
Yes, on Instagram, it's the Schmile Journey. So that's SCHMILE. And the website is the same. If you go onto my Instagram account, which is Tisha, TISHA.BTS, then the link is also in my bio. There's also a Facebook page with the same name, The Schmile Journal. I hope it's easy to find. It is what it says it is.
Well, I do have one more important question. Okay. The most important question of them all. A restaurant names a dish after you. What is it and why?
If a restaurant names a dish after me, they're going to name it Slayful Spice. Oh. Because I like to slay and I like spicy food. And it's not going to be anything new and it's going to be mac and cheese, fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread. I went to New York in March of last year, just before Corona hit. I was with my cousin and I said to him, I just want to eat soul food. So he took me to all the soul food places we could find. That's all we ate every single day. And I fell in love with cornbread. And now I make cornbread every single week. And I'm just having my own little Thanksgiving. Because we don't eat that here in the UK. You can't go to a restaurant and buy it.
Well,
so I had to learn how to cook it myself. And that's we have fish and chips.
I love the fish and chips. No, I love the fish and chips.
Fish and chips is okay, but it does not compare. It does not compare at all. So I feel like I'm connecting with all my American brothers and sisters every time I make cornbread.
I can't. Well, but I do hope before we end, I do hope this episode would have inspired someone, any one of you out there listening, to think about starting therapy. It's not the worst thing. It's just about, getting to know yourself so that you can be a better person for yourself and for others out there. Because, we talk about wanting to be great, but unless we know who we truly are, unless we really and truly discover who we are, we won't be able to. We need those tools. Therapy is like a toolbox. You pull out different tools every week or however often you may go so that you can apply and keep building until you become your complete self. Because I thought I knew who I was, and now I'm actually here relearning and learning also to love myself just because of therapy. I'm like the advocate, the ambassador for therapy right now. Like, you can't tell me nothing. I'm just every second, I got to go to therapy or I have a therapist. I'm like, I'm becoming one of those people who talk about like their significant other every chance they get. I'm like, I'm in therapy. My therapist said this. I'm like, I really, I don't want to be that girl, but like I said,
be that girl.
It really is a game changer and a life changer. Like I said, I thank you for that. Because let me tell you, I remember when I first booked my first therapy session, I was like, Tisha, I'm going to therapy. And we were just so excited. But, but I do honestly want to credit you and thank you for being encouraging and, for encouraging me to take that step. Like, you weren't like pushy or it's like you have to. Because, they got some people that, you have to do this, you have to do that. Yeah. But, your approach wasn't that way. I think you, in a sense, waited for me to make that decision, and ultimately I did.
And when you said it, I was very excited.
Yes,
and I think that's why you should keep talking about your journey too, because you didn't.
I am, but I'm like, I'm still shy. But at this point, if we're all here to help each other, at some, me being shy is defeating the purpose, really and truly. So I will make an effort, any opportunity I can get, try to make it fun, try to let someone see, why it is important, because it is important. Judgment-free zone. No one is judging you. No one is thinking, because I'm like, I got to tell this person my whole business, from A to Z and back. But, to this day, I just talk, whatever. I don't really care because, I know how my brain goes. But I do want to thank you, Tisha, for being my first guest.
Thank you for having me.
It's a Sunday, guys. And let me tell you how much I love this girl, because we're recording on Super Bowl Sunday. Okay?
It's Super Bowl Sunday? I didn't even know.
It's Super Bowl Sunday. I'm coming straight from work. I am coming out of a 2-hour class. But I do honestly want to thank you.
Guys, so I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I had a lot of fun recording this with my girl Tisha. We spoke candidly and we were just vulnerable. We were just having fun. So I hope you guys really enjoyed it and found some gems or get an insight into how our experiences are in therapy, and hopefully that motivates you to seek therapy or find whatever alternative you think may be best for you to promote your mental health. So last episode, I did something where I shared what I was diving into for the week. Well, for the last couple of weeks, guys, I've been watching this show. It's called WandaVision on Disney+. Now, if you're a Marvel fan, you're definitely going to watch or love this show. So make sure you watch this show. It's amazing. I just watched the finale last weekend and I'm still reeling from that. So make sure you guys check it out. And that's all I have. And of course, make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave me a review, let me know what you think. And of course, share and tag me on social media and give me your feedback. See you in the tea tasting room next week.